Last week we talked about the problem of laziness, a lack of responsibility, not seeing a particular need that benefits yourself or those around you. We ended with Proverbs chapter 6, 7 things that God hates. And among those, there was a statement that was made towards the end of that list, then in verse 19. Among the things God hates, a false witness who speaks lies and one who sows discord among brethren. For the time we spend together on this occasion, I'd like to stay with that particular verse, but look at the first half of it. A false witness who speaks lies, something that God hates. Why is that the case? And where else is that topic actually discussed? So what does it mean to hold to the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and hold to it tenaciously? The opposite of that is actually stating things that are really untrue, whether they're stated in ignorance or not. I want to go back to another chapter in Proverbs chapter 19, because it deals with this. In fact, it even deals with laziness. Verse number 15, laziness casts one into a deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. Kind of builds upon what we talked about last week. But as far as false witness is concerned, verse number 5, a false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. And a very similar statement is found just a few verses later in verse number 9 of Proverbs 19. A false witness will not go unpunished, the same as the first half of verse 5. And he who speaks lies shall perish. So it's a similar statement. You're not going to go unpunished, you will be punished. You're not going to escape, you're going to perish. That kind of end result for individuals that are unconcerned really about truth. And the statement is, here's somebody that is described in verse 3 as a person that twists the truth. The foolishness of a man twists his way. His heart frets against the Lord. It's not just saying something that's false, but actually approaching things in a foolish manner. Here's somebody that we've talked about it before. He's without objective knowledge in everything. The woke movement. How about that? So among the statements that are made in Proverbs chapter 19, the integrity, verse number 1, better is the poor who walks in his integrity than one who is perverse in his lips and is a fool. So somebody that is concerned about what is right, who has a great deal of integrity about them, is greater than somebody that has amassed a lot of wealth, but is foolish in the way that he responds to things and unconcerned about truth to begin with. The last part of that phrase, one who is perverse in his lips, he's not talking what is truth, and is a fool. Down in verse number 6, many entreat to the favor of nobility, and every man is a friend to one who gives gifts. And again, truth is really not so much a concern as gaining the favor of those who are in power. Almost sounds like bribery. But again, the statements that are made, verse 5 and verse 9, a false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies shall perish. Where else do I find that, and what is the principle upon which these statements are built? Go back to the book of Exodus for just a moment. It's actually in Exodus chapter 23. Beginning in the very first verse. You shall not circulate a false report. Do not put your hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Make sure you're speaking from the facts, not from an opinion or an assumption. And it's intriguing the verses that actually follow that. Verse number 2 of Exodus 23. You shall not follow a crowd to do evil, nor shall you testify in a dispute so as to turn aside after many to pervert justice. That sounds like it could be a headline in today's paper. Or the very next verse, verse number 3, you shall not show partiality to a poor man in his dispute. Just because you sympathize with him doesn't mean that you actually justify wrongdoing on the part of somebody that is impoverished. That's happening in our culture as well. So the individual that actually is speaking something that is wrong is reprimanded. You shall not circulate something that is a false report. Do not put your hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Then in verse number 7, keep yourself far from a false matter. Don't kill the innocent with righteous, for I will not justify the wicked. And if I continue this kind of thought, go from Exodus over to Deuteronomy, chapter 19 in Deuteronomy. And in that chapter, there's a statement that is made in verse 16 through 19 that says this: If a false witness rises against any man to testify against him of wrongdoing, then both men in the controversy shall stand before the Lord, before the priests and judges who serve in those days. The judges shall make careful inquiry, and indeed, if the witness is a false witness who has testified falsely against his brother, then you shall do to him as he thought to have done to his brother. So shall you put away the evil from among you. So it's like, okay, here's somebody speaking, giving a false testimony, a false message, false narrative, false claims against somebody else. And what is the intent? Well, the intent is to vilify the person they're talking against, maybe take away their influence, maybe strip them of everything they own, maybe defame their name and make it where they cannot hold their head up in society ever again. If you're a false witness proclaiming that, God's Word says what you intend to do to the other individual needs to happen to you. You need to be the one that loses your influence, your property, your rights. Your name is the one that needs to be defamed. Interesting, is it not? If you continue in the next few verses there in Deuteronomy, it talks about the fact that if that takes place, then you'll start stopping that kind of atrocity from taking place in and among the children of Israel, because they don't want to be the false witness that is caught in that horrendous act and lose everything they have worked for in life. The truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, sounds like an archaic phrase that in our culture no longer exists, but it should. Among the children of God, it must. And if there's a situation where Christians actually are jumping to conclusions, they're actually basing things on assumptions or opinions, they're not really doing research on all of the details, they're accepting what somebody else has told them, shame on us. Don't we decry individuals in the religious world that really focus on, well, my preacher said this, so that's got to be right, without checking it out for themselves? Maybe it's laziness that causes people not to actually dig into God's Word. Laziness may actually go hand in hand with those that are telling lies, those that are bearing false witness. Interesting topic with a tremendous warning that needs to be attached to it. The next time we're together, those that sow discord. That last statement made in the 7 things that are an abomination to God. Not just that false witness, but those that sow discord among brethren. Please stay safe. We'll talk again soon.